Hello and welcome everyone to round 5 of the R2V. In this week's round we are off to Aragon on the 2020 World Superbike Pack. You can see I'm racing R1 this week, custom design made up by Mr. Broom. I will link his channel down below. It's our first proper big bike event. A few of our previous rounds have been on the M2 and slightly lesser machines, so full factory superbikes on round 5. But since the season has started, from now on we will be focusing mainly on what's going on in real life. So expect to see a lot of rounds that are happening in real life that we will be covering in the championship. For this round 5 we had the option of MotoGP at Qatar, MotoGP or Moto2, or because World Superbikes have testing at Aragon, that's why we're going to Spain. But anyway, enough of the intro, let's jump into qualifying. So here you are joining me in qualifying for my fast lap of the session. We're currently sitting in P2 and there's a few fast boys in here. First place at the moment is Guy Noailles, I think his name is said, French guy, pretty damn quick on this game. And 48.7 wasn't out of the realms of possibility for me. My fastest I had managed on Aragon with this bike was a 48.5 or 4, and I didn't really do much Super Bowl times. I was just all focused on race runs and race laps and just kind of getting an understanding of the tyres after many laps, few loads and all that. So my one lap pace on a set of sticky Super Bowls wasn't my goal for the practice I did. So I knew I could get a 48, but this is my third lap on this set of tyres. You actually had limited tyres for this lobby. It was the first time in the R2V so far that we've had limited tyres, so that kind of played a part in me going a little extra on these tyres, because you only had 2 sets for the 20 minutes of qualifying. So at this point, this is my first round, third lap, and this lap the timing board on the top left had glitched out, so I actually didn't know if I was going quick or not. So at this point I wasn't too concerned if this was a good lap or not, because I still had the other ones. But unfortunately on my out lap, trying to avoid some traffic, I ran on the dirt and had a small spill, and kind of overheated the tyres, and that kind of just puts pay to them really. And then I tried to go for a lap and kind of got blocked by someone, so that was the end of that session and that set of tyres. So into the final corner come, big slide from the rear wheel, almost running out of the track. We did lose a good tenth or two there, so we were on for a very good lap. But up to the line, we are just over 0.3 off of Poleman. There he is to my right on the ZX10. But here we are now for the start of race 1. Can we get a good launch? Jeez, I'm myself for ages. We got a massive wheelie, and it looked like we got a good start, and then he came through from nowhere on the grid. And Guy Noailles comes from miles out, multi-cool, fresh. I get tagged nearly twice into P3, so we lost one position. I know I have the pace over Doc Monster. That is, I believe, Mystic, who got sent through the air coming out of turn 1. Big mistake already from Doc Monster. He shot the corner there and into P3 he goes. Drops in behind us. Now we're into P2. We're just trying to tuck in behind Guy Noailles. His pace should be good, as I expect him to be able to pull a bit on me. So early on now we are on an SC1 and SCX. I saw multi-cool fresh there and he kind of goes for it, and I give him the room, and I didn't really get the break in that corner right, so I didn't really fight it again. Just trying to survive the opening lap, so I'm being extra careful. Didn't really defend him, really gave him too much room and let him have that position too easily. Almost tagging the back from there, losing the rear like crazy, and almost having a huge high side there on the exit of the corkscrew section. Now, I did already mention in the start of the video that we had limited tyres, so I made a big mistake in practice, and it was kind of not my fault, because the mod had been changed multiple times in the past few days before the race. So the mod was changed maybe 40 minutes before, so I actually hadn't tested what was my race tyre. I had an idea of what the rear tyre would be. It was just the rear tyre I needed to test, but I didn't realise we only had 2 SCX tyres, which is the softest race tyre for the rear. And unfortunately I spent my whole practice going around on one of them, so I had absolutely shredded one, which left me one left, which I'm using in this race, which means in race 2 I have to use a harder component of rear tyre, which isn't ideal, and we will get to that later, what happens with that tyre. But for now I have my optimal setup, optimal tyres, and we're coming down now to turn 1, starting, this is lap 1 but it's actually lap 2, so the timing glitches out once again. Multi-fresh there. I am quicker than him, but he is kind of bouncing around making a few mistakes, so I'm kind of conscious of getting too close to him. Guy in P1 looks to be just putting a gap, so I was thinking about to see where could I get a move. It does look like we're stronger under heavy braking, but that V4 seems to leap out of the corners. Again, quite wide there, and we did pull onto the back of him, but I'm just being very cautious on the opening laps because I just want to build a gap to the people behind, and then unfortunately I get in deep down there and I give back the time I made up in the previous corners. So at this point in the race now, I just want to seek up a pressure on P2 to see can I get ahead of him or force a mistake on him. He's making a lot of mistakes at the moment. Maybe is it the pressure from me, or is he just trying to catch the leader? He goes quite wide there and just brings it back for a late apex, just slightly missing the apex, but still will get good drive up this hill. And you can see me just checking my shoulder because VS Master is in this lobby. He's quite quick, but he was I think he joined late in qualifying, so I don't know where he started, but he's currently in P4 from my knowledge, and we'll see a bit of him later in the race. But for now, we're taking a lot of time out of him in that corner. But there again, huge mistakes, really aggressive on the change of direction, and it really upsets the bike. And he goes right off the left. We don't even go for the slipstream because it's very hard to break into this corner when you're being buffeted around at the extra kind of 5-6 miles an hour you get. So I kind of elected that time to stay out of it. I wasn't close enough, and again you can see I take a lot of time out of him on a corner entry phase. That Ducati is squirming under the power, but again we're still nowhere near close enough to actually get a move done. So the lap times there, you can see a 3:45, so it's counted 2 laps in one. Have a bit of a moment into one, and again he was just a bit timid on the brakes compared to me, so I had to kind of sit the bike up there. I couldn't take my normal lines, and I've lost more time. Now the gap to the leader looks to be kind of stagnant at the moment. It looks like all three of us are running a similar pace, so I wasn't too concerned about the leader getting away, because as soon as he broke the gap I was fearful he would just keep taking tenths out of Multifresh and end up way further up the road. But for now he's just about keeping it. Again the Ducati goes wide, and I make another bit of a mistake there, getting got dragged in with him, so I didn't really capitalise on that mistake. But he is making a fair few mistakes, so I reckoned at the time that he was on the limit. Then I make another mistake, so it's nearly in succession of every time he does one I make one. So we are not really closing in on the leader, we're kind of just hanging on, just have the hooks in. Again, I think VS Master is on the way at this point of the race. I knew he was in P4. See, quite strong on the braking there. The bike's starting to move around, rear tyre slightly softer compound, but it has high grip levels and it should last the full race distance. I'm very careful there because that AstroTurf has been reworked and it is absolutely deadly. Again, into the stop start section we pull a bit of time back, but that Ducati absolutely leaps out of there. This time we do kind of just take a bit of slipstream because I was thinking at this point I kind of need to get past this guy, because I'm making a lot of mistakes behind him. My pace is pretty decent. You'll see this lap round we set a low 1 minute 50, I think it was 50.3. Into the final corner, the R1 just seems to close in on that entry phase, but that Ducati, the V4 especially, leaps out of these corners, especially long ones, up to the line. 1 minute 50.3, yeah, so quite fast race pace. With the SCX I could run in the 49s for a few laps, so I wasn't at my optimum pace yet, but a couple of laps into the race now, this is where I tried to turn the screw a bit and start to pull in Multifresh, and we're actually closing right in to start this lap. Unfortunately, again, he's just kind of in the way, and you have to be very careful getting closer out of this because of lag, ping issues and stuff like that. So we kind of held up there mid corner. He's making a lot of the corners into V's and squaring off, whereas I take a lot more corner speed by the look of it. Just ahead there, Neole made a big mistake, nearly ran off, and we've closed him in a touch. Now I'm all over the back one, so probably the fastest man on track at the moment, especially in the top 3. We're just sliding about there. We just get in a touch hot, but we can't square it off in first gear. And we're within touching distance now of P2, and P1 is coming back to us. Fortunately here though, just a bit wide, but we do manage to square it off and a good drive up the hill. But VS Master is closing, and he is closing fast. Should see in a second now. I start to hear his S1000, and Multifresh was very close to the curb there. We're very lucky to stay on, because them curbs are deadly. And again, just looks like he dipped the front wheel off the inside curb. And again, this section here I'm way stronger than him, especially on the brakes, but it's not really a place you can make an overtake. It's too square, you have to be really close to him. This time around now I'm pretty close to his back wheel, but unfortunately the bike kind of naturally took me across the track, so I didn't get in the slipstream early enough. But we get in here and we get up to 202 miles an hour for a split second before we brake a good bit earlier than we usually do because of the extra speed we're carrying in. You can see here now, I actually just turned slightly tight and there's a little bobble there at the inside, and that cost me my drive. I wanted to try and line them up into turn 1. We have a look, but again, the one braking zone he's strong, it looks to be turn 1, and I actually could have broken later. You can see I ended up too much on the inside curb. But there's a nice gap now between us and the leader. But that little rider behind me is VS Master, so he is rapid at the moment, especially with the clear track. That BMW S1000 is clearly quicker than me and Multifresh, and I reckon he's quicker than Guy as well, so he'll be along with us shortly. And at this point I was kind of monitoring his pace more than anyone else because I could see what the leaders were doing, and I just wanted to see what VS was doing because he caught us pretty quickly. Now I'm not going slow, we're doing pretty good lap times, 1:50, low 50s, whereas VS Master was definitely in the 49s lap after lap. So I'd kind of made the decision here, if he caught me, just to leave and go and hope that I could just maybe piggyback him through into P2, as he's right there now. So I was definitely thinking just leave and go because he's so much quicker. I was hoping that he might punch a hole. The caddy again, just I don't know what he managed to do there, but I think he was turning in too early and just had to kind of slow down and set it up. So it cost me time there again, just being parked on the apex. Gets very close to that curb there. If you touch that with even your knee, you're on the ground. And coming over there, he gets right on onto the green. That won't be good for his drive. And VS Master over that now is pretty close to me and picking up slipstream the whole way on the straight. So as we come into the final corner, again I close right to the back of him, and because he's there I can't take my corner speed, which allows VS Master to pretty much be on my back wheel. See, I have a look there just to double check the inside, and he's right on my slipstream, so we're going to just drift across the track. I am the lead rider, so I can do this, make him go the long way around, and he still managed to get to stop nicely into turn 1. We'll look here to see if we get a cut back, but he runs in deep and squares it off. So moved on by VS Master, lovely move. So again, right now I was just hoping he could hopefully punch a hole for the two of us to slide through. And he's all over the back of P2 already, and he has a look in here, and we just try to close in, and we actually get held up then by him because he gets held up by the Ducati. So he's having similar issues that I was, where he was kind of just getting to the back of him and having nowhere to go, but he pulls an absolute beautiful move out there. In fairness to Multifresh as well, he did sit up and just give him the room. But then unfortunately he was braced a bit touch late, then goes in deep. I reckon he's absolutely on the limit doing the pace, and he just drops in again in P3. So we're again at this point, I was thinking he will get past pretty soon and will hopefully drag me to P1 if we can both slide past. He seems to have serious exit speed at the corner, and again he just can't use his braking because there's a Ducati there. At this point now, because we're going side by side over, I'm losing a lot of time, and at this point I'm just going to leapfrog both of them. But unfortunately, just like I said in the pre-lap, if you touch your rider off that, which he does, down you go. So that was Multifresh out of the chance of the victory and probably the podium. So at this point now, piggyback, I want to just get towed along to the leader and see could I use it to win it. So I pull out the slipstream because I don't want to get in too hot. Our lap rider there doing very well, just getting off the circuit and giving us the space. But you can see just how confident on throttle delivery and kind of the initial crappy throttle VS is. Give the backmarker a wave, fair play. And into turn 1 now you can see he's already nearly catching up, so he's carrying a lot of speed, a bit too much that time into turn 1. So for me it was critical not to get dropped by VS Master, because that could be my ticket for the victory. And again, he's just slightly overriding at the moment, making nicer lines at the corners. He's carrying too much speed in, and I'm quite strong on the braking phase. I set the bike up well for that, but I do lose quite a bit of time kind of mid corner and corner exit, which is a bit annoying when you're trying to pass people, but it is what it is. I did set the bike up myself, so I knew what I was dealing with, but I felt very, very strong on the brake. And again, you can see it just take a chunk of time out in the brakes, so if I could get near them I would be able to pass. Now we jump forward further into the race, lap 6 I believe, and you can see the pretty much they're side by side. I made a couple of mistakes and VS Master up to his pace. We see through here, that is Niole, whatever it said, out onto the curb, and he's tucked the front on the AstroTurf. Now it turns out there wasn't contact, even though from my perspective there it looked like maybe VS pulled a bit of a kamikaze move, but in fairness he didn't. I did talk to both of them afterwards, and it was apparently a clean pass, and looks like he was out of fuel, is according to VS, that's what happened to the guy. So at this point I pretty much had P2 sewn up, and I was pretty happy with that, because I again was thinking of the championship, thinking of the big chunk of points you get for P2. So again here now, I wasn't overly stressed about trying to catch VS Master. Handful of laps left, he could easily make a mistake, he could easily crash himself, he was riding right on his limit. So for me now, it's just right off the laps, bring this one home, a P2 or P1 if I get the opportunity. And I come around this corner here, and that is VS Master leave me through now. He jumps out of the lobby, he doesn't say why, but he unfortunately had to leave the race at that point. I don't know why exactly, but that makes me race leader. So we jump now to the final lap, and we have managed to take the victory in race 1 thanks to some good riding and a slice of fortunate luck, as VS Master had maybe a small collision with Gaiola. He crashed, Multifresh crashing, but we weren't crashing. We managed to win it across line on the back wheel, nice wheelie to finish off, and that's our 3rd victory in a row. Solid result. So unfortunately we are missing a couple in for race 2, so we're missing VS Master, and Guy Niole is missing as well. So at this point now, I was thinking this is my race, I have to win this one as well, I have the pace. So we try and get a good launch in race 2. Lights hold forever again. Do get a good launch, but Mystic Criminal on the inside gets an absolute belting launch. And Doc Monster again on that Ducati is rapid into 1 again. We're just being careful of Alex Cross. He has pretty good pace to Alex if you get out in front. He just goes up the inside there, just managed to avoid him. And I'm looking at the high sides out of 1. That's pretty much his race done from there. But we're up behind Mystic now, and that's Doc Monster as well. And so it looks like the man who got ahead of me at the start, so they both get sucked in. I dropped the first, set it up and squared them off, and that's me up to P2. So now my eyes are set on that. I give him a slight wave because there was a bit of slowly, could have been contact there, but we come in here, and unfortunately there looks like there was contact. Now Mystic said these bikes are a bit uncontrollable at lean, so it looks like there was contact, and apparently Doc was lagging as well, he said. So we move up now to P2. We look over shoulder in a second here, and you can see Mystic's behind us. Not for long, he does end up crashing and disconnecting afterwards. So this race now, we had an SC0 on a slightly harder compound, and that is a bit of an issue because with the SEX I was definitely quicker than Multifresh, but I couldn't use my corner speed and I was kind of getting stuck behind them. And when you get stuck behind someone in this game, you do start taking their lines, and once again he is making mistakes early in this race, so he's definitely trying to push as hard as he can. So at this point now, I knew I was ahead of everyone else, and I just wanted to get in the rhythm, see what I could do, and just try and focus on getting close to the back of the V4 and maybe force a mistake like VS did. But I wasn't too concerned about getting past early. He does run out there, and again I actually make mistakes, so I kind of get drawn in by his line and end up getting a bad exit. I get out in the ashes for myself, and if I actually was a bit more alert there, I might have had a chance into turn 1. We do take a good look, take a nice chunk of time out there into the first corner. I probably could have passed him if I got a better run through the final corner, especially the exit was poor. Touching the green didn't help at all. So he's not too bad, the V4R, he's pretty good. We make a first mistake there. At this point I realised I didn't mute the Discord call, so I actually start making a few mistakes here because I'm trying to think of ways to do it, but and I get distracted. But fortunately there's nothing I can do at this point, so I have the audio turned slightly down so you can't hear the people talking in the background. And that did cost me a good few tenths, but again the Ducati runs wide there. We're not close enough to do anything with it yet, so at this point in the race I was pretty happy that I could probably beat him again because he looks to be making a fair few mistakes. He's quick, but he's running wide and sliding around a bit, so it's going to be quite hard for him to keep this going lap after lap for the whole race. So I was pretty confident the race double could be on, but as we come into this corner here, I brake where my normal brake marker is, but the lack of rear grip has just started pumping, and then we pull in here and I just tried to turn it, but as soon as you get onto the kind of unrubbered in dirty tarmac we crash. And that is my chance of the victory gone. So unfortunately I was putting pressure on, and just a slight mistake. The biggest mistake really was not having an SEX for the race, because that did catch me and into P4 we slot, but unfortunately there Matty makes a mistake, runs out onto the AstroTurf, and that gives us P3. So we're simply back onto the podium straight away. We just get better exit out there, give him a little wave. Now up next is Alex. He crashed on lap 1. He was the guy that high sided. Now this guy was pretty quick in practice. He was second in practice to me. I top practice with a 49.2. So I knew he had race pace. Whether that was Super Bowl pace or race pace, I don't know. But he does make a mistake in exactly the same place. So maybe he's having the same issue with the tyres that I did. At this point now I smell blood. So you can see I absolutely nailed this sector here. And I'm on the charge. Absolutely using all of the track. And again, just a little deep from him. So we're thinking definitely we can get this guy. He's on an R1 as well, so he shouldn't be as rapid on the straight. So I'm thinking not all is lost here. I could still get P2, and if the leader was to cross well, that could be another race win. But for now, my eyes were on P2, and I believe I was quicker than him. I could get him, so I was pushing on pretty aggressively now, and he's a big slide there on the exit of the final corner. So we're rapid now. We're clutching him slightly. We do 50.1, so that's a pretty damn good lap time with an SE0 in the rear. And he's hot into 1 again, so he's making a fair few mistakes in the last couple of corners. And as we come up into this corner here, he just tips in a bit too early and he touches the curb and down he goes. I trumped that and just give him a quick wave, but it looked like he just touched the white line, or he locked the front. A bit of a strange crash, because I felt like the bike's been pretty strong through there all week. Just don't know what his setup is, but that is pretty much the end of my race. So we have such a massive gap up to the leader. Now I do start catching him. I do put in some good laps. He's probably just tailed off, but yeah, nothing else happened for this race. We just come home for a comfortable P2, and yeah, unfortunately that crash at the start cost me maybe a chance of going for the win. As the race went on, I kind of got used to the tyre. We started last lap here, now lap 9. I did get used to the tyre a bit more, but again, it just comes back to the fact that the mod was changed just before the race, so I had to do a race run just for my own kind of mental side, just to know that which tyre was better, because we had 3 mods in like 3 days, and the first mod I had a setup for it and I knew exactly what I would race with tyre wise. The second mod completely threw that out, so I had to make a second setup for different tyres, and then the third one I didn't know what was what, so I had to run just a couple of laps on the SEX, and I was really quick. I was in the 49s on my own, so if I had a bit of clear track in the first race I could have maybe done that pace again, but with the SE0 you just lose a bit of that edge grip, and that does catch you around here for 3-4 tenths a lap, and that does add up. So I don't know Multi-Fresh what tyre he was on, but he was quick all as I know, so wasn't guaranteed I'd win, but I would have liked to at least had a try, had a battle with him. I believe I could have passed him, and we could have had some fun, but unfortunately for me anyway, it's going to be P2, but good result for him. He stayed solid out front on his own, stayed consistent, so tip my hat to him. Good result for him in the championship. But I'm going to come on for qualified P2, won race 1 and P2 in race 2. So overall, pretty damn happy with that. I performed pretty well. One mistake cost me maybe a perfect weekend almost, but yeah, overall happy with the performance, good result, and looking forward to the next one. Now that we're actually into the proper season, it's going to be even more enjoyable now that we'll have the real tracks. We're going to have a lot more kind of these GP tracks and superbikes and some really enjoyable stuff. So up the line we come. We end up losing by about 7 seconds, and we definitely lost at least 7 seconds with that crash. Come down to turn 1, give a little wheelie, we give him a little wave here. We just turn around here, kind of shake hands as you would after the race. So fair play to him, he did well on that V4 to come on with the victory. We just kind of give a little wave, he waves back at us. So I'm going to leave there for round 5 of the R2V. I hope you have enjoyed it today. Again, another solid performance on my behalf. I'm really happy with the 2 races overall. Again, I should have the championship lead. Now, unfortunately, because of round 4 with the issues with the timing screens, they can't really do the points for that round, so I end up not really scoring any points for 2 wins and a pole position, which is kind of annoying, but it is exactly what it is. Unfortunately, I have no say in it. But again, good solid points there, taking over some of the top guys, so we should move up to closer, if not the championship lead for the standings. Again, I'll put them on the community tab once I get them, but I am going to leave there. Hope you have enjoyed. If you did, drop a like down below, more, subscribe to see more in the future, and shall catch you all in the next episode. Bye bye.